কতটা হয়েছিল একটু বলো তো আমাকে। স্ক্রিনটা ভিজিবল?
হ্যাঁ স্যার ভিজিবল।
হ্যাঁ স্যার।
ওকে, কতটা হয়েছিল একটু বলো।
স্যার
বলো।
স্যার বলছি ক্লাসে জয়েন হওয়ার কোডটা কোথায় পাবো স্যার?
তুমি তো জয়েন হয়েই আছো।
না আমি জয়েন হয়ে আছি কিন্তু আমাকে মেসেজ করে যাচ্ছে, বলছে কোডটা শেয়ার করতে।
কে?
সৌপর্ণ।
কোডটা কোথায় পাবে? কোডটা দেখো এই ওপরেই তো থাকবে তোমাদের, একদম ওপরে একটা ওই যে meet.google.com তারপর একটা স্ল্যাশ দিয়ে যেটা আছে না ওপরে, যেখানে ইউআরএলটা লেখা আছে দেখো।
স্যার আমাদের হোম স্ক্রিনে তো রয়েছে উপরে ভিভি ডেট হাইফেন দিয়ে টি জে এ জে
ওটাই কোড। আমার আসলে হোয়াটসঅ্যাপটা অন করা হয়, নেটটা অফ করা আছে। বলো কতটা কি পড়া হয়েছিল বলো। হ্যালো
স্যার ওই যে ইউসি পর্যন্ত পড়া হয়েছিল, ইট ইজ অ্যান হিউম্যান অ্যাজ আই অ্যাম হিউম্যান ডোন্ট ইউসি।
আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে, আমি তাহলে একটু শুরু থেকে শুরু করি, তাহলে ব্যাপারটা বুঝতে পারবে। ওখানে দেখো কি বলছিলাম যে আমি তোমাদের লাস্টের দিন বলেছিলাম যে somehow the fundamental focus of this particular poem is a kind of an introduction that is provided, and it is indicating an introduction to the feminine consciousness. আমি তোমাদের লাস্ট ডেতে ওই ফেমিনিস্টের বেসিক ওরিয়েন্টেশন গুলো নিয়ে বলছিলাম, ডিফারেন্সেস গুলো বলছিলাম, কমলা দাসের লেখার স্ট্যান্ড পয়েন্ট গুলোকে নিয়ে বলছিলাম, এবং সেখানে আমি বলেছি যে টেক্সটার মধ্যে কিন্তু একটা পেট্রিয়ার্কাল একটা ওরিয়েন্টেশন কিন্তু কাজ করছে বা আছে। সো হিয়ার কমলা দাস সেইজ, আমি একটু পড়ি আগেরটুকু, তারপরে সেখান থেকে শুরু করছি আবার। এখানে পড়ছিলাম আমরা, I don't know politics but I know the names of those in power and can repeat them like days of weeks or names of months beginning with Nehru. আমি এগুলো রিপিট করছি না just because it have already been discussed. I am Indian, very brown, born in Malabar, speak 3 languages, write in 2, dream in 1. And then the prerogatives যেগুলো এখানে আছে দেখো, যে don't write in English they said. Okay, এগুলো অলরেডি ডিসকাশন হয়েছে দেন এগুলো নিয়ে। So don't write in English, they said. English is not your mother tongue, right? Why not leave me alone, critics, friends, visiting cousins, every one of you? And then it says, why not let me speak in any language I like? The language I speak becomes mine, its distortions, its queernesses, all mine, mine alone. It is half English, half Indian, funny perhaps, but it's honest. It is as human as I am human, you see. Okay, or don't you see? তো এই অবধি হয়েছিল আমাদের, সেখানে একটা বড়সড় প্রশ্ন ছিল। আমি তোমাদের বলেছিলাম যে this particular text is actually indicating with a kind of an interrogation. কোন interrogation কে prefigure করছে? যে don't you see that it is as human as I am human? And then it says, it voices my joys, my longings, my hopes. So the question that actually arose here, what Kamala Das had prefigured here, it is indicating in terms of the language. I mean, last din tomader bolechi je fundamentally whenever we think about the language, generally we consider that language or maybe the linguistic identity is to be considered one of the chiefest identity that one has. Okay, that means the particular language that you speak, because the language itself suggests your own identity. It actually indicates that whenever it is the matter with the language, you will find that language is the medium of expression. Language is the medium of expressing your thoughts. So therefore, and you are the sum total of what you think. So therefore, your own existence is to some extent being related with the language that you do use. So therefore, whenever you will find that your language has been made at a stake, when people will interrogate, the people will question your language, that is actually questioning your own identity. Therefore, language becomes a linguistic identity. It becomes a very important part actually. So that's why here the reference of the language being incorporated, it says that it becomes mine, its distortion, its queernesses, etc., everything. It is as human as I am human, don't you see? It voices my joys, my longings, my hopes. So everywhere, each and every time, each and every moment, whenever I use my language, it voices my joys because it becomes the medium of my expression. So therefore, whenever, whatever I do feel, my language actually prefigures that particular emotion. It voices my joys, it voices my longings, it voices my hopes. So whenever it is the matter with the hope, whenever it is the matter with the longing, or maybe my joys, ultimately the language actually voices everything. So it voices my joys, it voices my longings, it voices my hopes, and it is useful to me as cawing is to crows or roaring to the lions. So what happens, in this particular reference, you will find that obviously there is a, linguistically speaking, that so far as the linguistics is concerned, you will find that somehow the animal communication system and human language, both are technically different from each other. But if you consider that whenever it is the matter with the animal communication system, with the cawing to the crows or roaring to the lions, ultimately you will find it is something instinctual, right? That means you cannot say that, if you take a crow or maybe a lion from Africa or from any other subcontinent and then just take that particular beast to any other place, then the roaring suddenly got changed. But it is not so with the human beings. You see that a Bengali he has been taken from Bengal and just been brought up in Russia. Then certainly he will speak Russian. But I'm not going with the technical parts or language. The basic orientation, the basic focus of this particular expression lies in the pattern with, the kind of association that you do feel. Because as I've mentioned just now, that language becomes the part of your own identity. So therefore, whenever you are speaking, you are just expressing your mind, you are expressing your concern, you're expressing your hopes or expressing your thoughts in the formation of language. So therefore, language itself becomes to some extent related to you, to some extent instinctual. Though technically it is not possible because language is not instinctual to us. But ultimately, you will find here, Kamala is speaking, Kamala is marking, that somehow it is useful to me. So it is the matter with the utility, it is the matter with the usefulness. As useful cawing is to the crows and roaring to the lions, likewise the language that I do use, whether it is Malayalam, whether it is Canarese, or whether it is English, ultimately I must speak, I must show that these are also useful to me because it helps me to express my own feelings, express my desires, express my frustrations also. So therefore it says that it voices my joys, it voices my longings, it voices my hopes, and it is useful to me. How much useful? As cawing is to the crows or roaring to the lions. And then she says that it is human speech. It is the speech of the mind that is here and not there. A mind that sees and hears and is aware. So that's why, as I mentioned, that language becomes a part of identity. Here Kamala is speaking, Kamala is stating that somehow it is the human speech, the speech of the mind that is here and not there. So why here and not there? That means it is not a kind of a distancination that have been referred here. So if that is here, the mind that is present here and not there. So ultimately you cannot make a kind of a difference between the two selves of a human soul. And here it says, it is the speech of mind. And mind to some extent, when it's the matter with the mind, you will certainly find that somehow the each and every kind of human self has been divided into two major sections. One is the called individual self, and second one is called the social self. So here and there, probably it's kind of an indication that refers to that particular kind of a distanciation. That means whenever I utter the language, whenever I speak anything, I actually express my own deep thoughts and concern. Okay, it is not something related to something other, or it is not being related to the external parts, to be specific. Okay, and then it says that so then it says, his voice is my joys, my longings, my hopes, and it's useful to me as cawing is to crows, or roaring to the lions. It is human speech, as you can see, the speech of the mind that is here and not there. It is a mind, okay, that sees and hears and is aware. So ultimately, whenever you will find it is the matter with the expression of emotion, it is the matter with the expression of your frustration, expression of your thought, expression of your feeling and temperament. Everybody will find it is the mind that actually sees, it is the mind that hears. So mind, remember, it is not the eye that sees or ear that hears, rather it is the mind, because it is something furthermore. That means it is indicating not simply in terms of your organs, okay, rather it is indicating in terms of something mental, something psychological, mental, something spiritual. So therefore it says a mind it is that sees and hears and is aware, so aware of everything. Okay, that is the thing that is being pointed out here. So ultimately I am aware of everything. Okay, so it is not irrelevant, therefore it is some point that is indicated, it is important, it is conscious, and so on. And then it says not the deaf blind speech. Now here you will find that she is considering that if you think in terms of the sound, that is the creation of sound, there are ample reference of the sound here where the sound becomes less substantive, the sound becomes less important. Okay, that means the mere sounds of storms and clouds and rains, okay, it doesn't have any meaning, right? Because you cannot get any particular meaning. But it is not so in case of the language. So it is behind human speech there lies a conscious mind which sees and hears actually. So that is being stated here. But behind the sounds of the inanimate objects, you cannot say that there is a thinking mind or something that is actually creating or rather structuring that particular sound. It is not so. So that means you have to consider that whenever it is the matter with the human language, it is the matter with the human speech. Ultimately, you will find that behind each and every kind of a speech, there lies the whole construction of your mind. There lies the whole construction of yourself. So ultimately, you will find that the kind of sound that have been created by the inanimate objects, these are considered as deaf. Okay, these are considered as a blind speech rather, because the sounds do not have its association with your understanding, with your feeling, with your temperament. Rather, these are called the blind speech. So it's something, generally it has not been used. How can the speech be blind? It is something problematic. But ultimately, you will find that why it's called blind speech, because you will find certainly that these are the sounds which are deaf and blind. Both what we see and what we hear, and the byproduct of everything that we experience, we are the sum total of everything. So, but ultimately, if you think in terms of these kinds of sounds, it is considered as deaf and blind in this particular reference. Then it says, so not the deaf and blind speech of trees in storm, or of monsoon clouds, or of rain, or the incoherent muttering of the blazing funeral pyre. So here you will find that there is a list, almost the list of references where the sounds have been created. What it says that it is not the deaf blind speech first. Okay, why deaf and blind? Because I have already discussed that deaf to the ears and blind to the eye. And these are the sensory organs, the important organs that the human beings do have. And ultimately, with the help of these two organs, that means the eyes and ears, generally we have been completely being related with our experience, with our knowledge, with our understanding. So when the matter with the inanimate sounds or sounds that have not been related with any kind of knowledge, the sounds that have not been related with any kind of feeling and expression, ultimately these are considered to be deaf and blind because such kind of knowledge, such kind of association is not present here. And then it says, not the deaf blind speech of trees in storms. So ultimately you will find that it is the basic indication with the creation of the sounds. And it says that, okay, during the storms, there are also kind of a sound that have been created. So during the storms or monsoon clouds, you will find the sounds have been created, but that particular sound that it creates during the monsoon clouds or of rain or the kind of sound that is found during the blazing funeral pyre, চিতাটা যখন জ্বলে না তখন ওই funeral pyre থেকে তুমি জানো একটা অদ্ভুত রকম দাউ দাউ করে একটা আগুনের আওয়াজ পাওয়া যায়. These are the mutterings to some extent, it seems. Obviously, it is the death that is being indicated here. But ultimately, when it is the matter with the storm, when it is the matter with the monsoon clouds, or maybe the sound that have been created by the rain, or maybe the incoherent muttering of the blazing pyres or so, okay, what I must say here, that these are to some extent the indicated versions of different kinds of sounds that is possibly present within this nature. And ultimately, so far as the human beings are concerned, you will certainly find that human beings are continuously being related with all these, But somehow, the kind of sound that nature creates, it doesn't provide you any particular kind of a knowledge. It doesn't provide you the basic impression that behind such kind of sound there is or there lies a kind of mind, a kind of self. Okay, so that's why these are the deep sound, deep speech, and blind speech. Okay, but she says that whenever I utter something, whenever I express something, there is a depth, a philosophical depth, a psychological depth, because this is a sum total of what I have experienced. So whenever I utter something, whenever I express something, this is the sum total of what I have felt. This is the expression of my feeling. This is the expression of my thought. This is the expression of my despair. This is the expression of my joys. So therefore, the sounds that I do utter, the language that I speak, this is not simply a sound, this is not simply a speech. Rather, it is the expression of my emotions. That is the fundamental focus. And that's why the language is important, because the language that I do use. This is the fundamental focus of this particular section. And then here you will find somehow that from this particular line actually, then to some extent a kind of a memory and how it actually haunts the present. The past is haunting the present. That has been incorporated here from this particular section. She says, I was child and later they told me I grew. So it is not so. I have already mentioned that somehow it's a kind of a confessional orientation. And at the same time, I have also mentioned that somehow whenever it is the matter with this particular poem, you will find certainly it is indicating to some extent a kind of a feminist agenda. Why? Because you know that how the stratification has been made. Because you have been stratified. You have been labeled. You have been labeled, marked, stratified by patriarchy. Patriarchy, it is patriarchy which is actually telling you that you are a grown-up person. Why? Because your body, your limbs have got changed. Okay, that is the thing that she says. So nobody actually bothered to think about my feeling. Nobody have bothered to consider what I do feel, what I want, what I do desire, because nobody is actually it seems nothing to them simply. Okay, so they're least concerned about them. So here that's why she says that I was a child and later they told me. I have already mentioned that who are these they? These are okay, literally these are indicating that these are the male relatives or maybe the relatives who are around her. But somehow, as I have mentioned, that whenever it is the matter with the family, whenever it is the matter with the society, you will find that in terms of family, in terms of the society, everywhere it is a kind of the patriarchal design that is perverting. So that means each and everybody will find each and every kind of a relative the males obviously, and also the females, who are consciously or unconsciously actually justifying patriarchal design, they are to some extent controlling me, and they are to some extent they're showing me the do's and don'ts and obligatory rules and principles and so. So therefore, they are becoming the deciding factor to me. So I was a child, and later they told me I grew. So it is not that I felt that I have grown. No, it was they who actually told me that I have grown. Right. So the passivity that you can identify. Why? Why they did say that I have grown? For I became tall. Number one, my limbs swelled. It's the bodily change that a female has that have been pointed out. So I grew, for I became tall, my limbs swelled, and one or two places sprouted hairs. So this is a kind of an overt description, a direct description of the certain bodily changes that a person actually feels or faces at the time of adolescence. Better. So ultimately it says that told me I grew, and for I became tall, my limbs swelled, and one or two places sprouted hair. So the fundamental focus that is being pointed out here by the poet here, that somehow, what do you know or what do you feel about the concept of growing or grown? Okay, is it simply the bodily changes or the changes of your body or limbs that actually indicates that you have a full-grown woman? Or rather, it is a kind of a mental and psychological development that is actually needed foremost. So that is the question that she is asking actually. It is the question that she is actually creating. So the patriarchal design or the representatives of patriarchy, they do not feel it is indicated, that they do not feel it is important to know about the psychological development or the desires or maybe the kind of thought that is the woman is possessing or the female is possessing. Rather, they are stratifying that your body has got changed. That means you are capable of breeding. Okay, you are capable of giving birth to a child, and that's why the patriarchal and at the same time the capitalist design of procreation, it will be done. Okay, so there is the fulfillment. Obviously, whenever you are entering into marriage, that means the procreation is needed, and when the child has been taken birth, then the patriarchal design has got fulfilled, because the property and other things, it gets its inherited and it will be distributed in the due course. So therefore your purpose is done. So that is the fundamental thing, that the patriarchal and at the same time the capitalist design that is actually in work. So they're actually least bothered about what you do feel, what you do think, and what you do actually desire. So this is nothing a matter of importance to them. So that's why it says the passivity, the sheer passivity that have been indicated here, this is actually to some extent in an ironic design. It is to some extent criticizing the temperament of the patriarchy. So therefore it says that I was child, and later they told me I grew, for I became tall, my limbs swelled, and one or two places sprouted hair. And then I obviously, there is a kind of a difference between the process of male thinking and female thinking. I am not stratifying following the patriarchal design, but here she says that when I asked for love, okay, not knowing what else to ask for, because I was not a grown-up person at the time. I didn't have that experience. And that's why I thought that, okay, somebody will come to my life and ultimately it will be a love-learned affair. It will be a new kind of a relationship, okay, because there was no escape from it. And if there is a kind of a relationship, then the basis must have to be worked on the basis of the love itself or emotional attachment. And that's why she says that when I asked for love, not knowing what else to ask for, because I didn't know, I was not a very grown-up person. He means, it actually literally means the father, but ultimately you will find that he refers to a representative of patriarchy. What he does actually, he drew a youth of 16. It's indicating the early marriage. It's something autobiographical in this particular reference. And he, that is the father or maybe the representative of patriarchy, he drew a youth of 16 into the bedroom and closed the door. So that is the copulation or sexual consummation being indicated. So what the patriarchal design or what the patriarchal representatives did, they actually drew a youth of 16 years and they actually drew him into my bedroom and just closed the door. That means copulate. He didn't beat me. Now, if you think about the temperament of that particular person, here Kamala says that it is not that person, that means the youth of 16 who actually came there. He beat me or something, you know, I was beaten and somehow it was a kind of an horrific experience that she is sharing. It is not so. She says that we were young, okay, and he did not beat me. But the problem was that, you know, that whenever the sexual consummation has been taken place, and ultimately the body, the kind of intrusion, you know, we have already gone through the short story Intrusion by Shashi Deshpande. So somehow it says that he didn't beat me, but my sad woman body felt so beaten. You see the term sad woman body, because the body actually bears the byproduct. So that's why it says that he didn't beat me, but my sad woman body, the sad one. Why is sad? Because there is no particular indications of my desire, what I do feel, what I do desire. So there is no particular kind of an interrogation being made. And that's why it says that, but my sad woman body felt so beaten. And then suddenly the body got changed. It says the weight of my breasts, the womb crushed me. So the change actually. It is indicating the labor, and when a woman is in labor, the certain changes in her body, these have been indicated here. So the weight of my breasts and womb crushed me. So that was the way she was beaten, you know, the sad woman body felt so big. So the weight of my breasts, the womb crushed me. I shrank pitifully, okay, because I do consider that it was not something that I wanted. It was not something that I, you know, felt, okay. So that's why it's a kind of a, to some extent, it's not something not wanted and unwanted orientation being incorporated. That's why it says that I shrank pitifully. And then he grew or she grew defiant. That means she considered that, okay, enough is enough. I don't have to follow the rules and regulations and obligations and everything that have been, you know, dumped on me by patriarchy. So therefore, then ... The dots are actually indicating that to some extent my orientation, my thought process, my temperament got changed, and I transformed myself. I wore a shirt and my brother's trousers. I cut my hair short and ignored my womanliness. So this womanliness, as I've already mentioned in my previous lecture, that somehow what is womanliness? As I've already mentioned, that when a child actually takes birth, she takes birth as a female. And it is the society that actually stratifies her into a woman. That means there are some rules and regulations, there are some formulations, you have to follow them, okay? Don't wear the trouser, don't cut your hair short, right? So ultimately, the temperament, the attitude, the outlook, okay, everything has been stratified by patriarchy. That means a woman should be idealistically oriented in this particular way. And now I defied them. Okay, I didn't follow them, right? I didn't follow each and every kind of thing that the patriarchy actually wants from me. So that's why I wore a shirt. It was not permitted at the time. I wore my brother's trousers. It was also not permitted. And then the long hairs have been cut short, okay? And I ignored my womanliness. Every kind of womanly attributes that have been dumped on the females, I actually ignored them. But now what happens, you know, that whenever you are behaving in this particular way, it will be the patriarchal representatives and the society. They will create some interrogations, they will create some questions to you, and they will to some extent dump some advices, not advices, the orders. And they say, dress in saris, okay, be girl, be wife, they say. So you shouldn't follow this particular way of you know, clothing. Okay, the clothing habit must have to be changed. You should wear saris, dress in saris, be girl, be wife, they said. So ultimately, where are you trying to do something extra. There is no need of changing yourself. There is no need of transforming yourself. Don't go tomboyish. Be a girl. Be my wife or be a wife. You know, the wife, the patriarchal term, obviously. The subjugatory orientation. So dress in saris, be girl, be wife, they say it. Be embroiderer, be cook, be a quarreler with servants. What happens, you know, that whenever you will go with these particular sections, embroiderer, you will find that these are the attributes which are generally being dumped on the females. It says, therefore, that the embroidering, these are the works to be done by the females. Be cook, okay, that means the queen of the house image, you see, and be a quarreler with servants. So this is the general orientation. Why? Because if you quarrel with the servants, it will be kind of, you know, that you are the ruler of your house, it seems to be. But remember, I must say here that this is a kind of a patriarchal design, you see, that why the females have been treated or females have been shown that you are the queen of the house. Why? Because it is a kind of an, to some extent, imprisonment that have been done by patriarchy on the females. Don't consider the present scenario, because nowadays you will find that some of the females are coming out of the houses. Okay, they are entering into the employment, they are gaining the financial stability, and that's why they, in these cases, you will find that somehow they don't want to be completely being exploited, completely being dominated by the patriarchal substantives. Okay. So what I do suggest here, you see, that this quarreler with servants, or the queen of the house kind of an image that have been shown, it is a kind of an, you know, it's a kind of a camouflage. Why? Because, you know, I must say that by giving you the freedom, quote unquote freedom, actually the imprisonment procedures have been made by the patriarchy. Okay? Because you are the queen of the house, so there is no need to go outside. Just quarrel with the servants. You are the ruler, you see, the ruler of the house. Don't go outside. Don't compete with us outside, because we do feel that the outside works are to be done by the males alone. Right? You know, in the book History of Sexuality, Michel Foucault has pointed out this. Okay, he had made the particular reference to the World War, when, you know, during the First World War, it was seen that all the male members of the family, they actually went to the war. Okay, they had to go to the war. And all the household activities, along with the financial works and something, these have been done by the females. The problem arose when they actually returned to the houses. Now the females, who have been, you know, to some extent imprisonment hitherto, and now they have tasted the economic freedom. So they didn't want to return to their households, okay, any longer. And then patriarchy, carefully, they are creating some kind of you know, some kind of plans. What are the plans? What are the schemes? That the patriarchal representatives show that, okay, why are you toiling much? Tomra eto koshto keno korbe? Okay, because, you know, you are in the house, and each and every kind of works that you do, আমি তাদের জন্য হেল্প করার জিনিসপত্র দিয়ে দিচ্ছি। তোমার okay, you feel some trouble in washing clothes? Okay, I am providing you the তোমাকে আমি এটা দিয়ে দিচ্ছি আর কি, জামা কাপড় কাচার যে মেশিন আর কি, যেটা। ওকে, এন্ড তোমার কিসে প্রবলেম হয় বলো? তোমার রান্না বান্না করতে প্রবলেম হয়? ওকে, আই এম প্রোভাইডিং ইউ দ্য মাইক্রোওয়েভ, আই এম প্রোভাইডিং ইউ দ্য ইন্ডাকশন ওভেন। ওকে, everything, even the dishwasher, even the toaster or something, you know, the household appliances. So whether it is the washing machine, or whether it is the appliances, or whether it is the televisions, the upgradation of televisions, everything has been done to some extent with a kind of a design. I'm not stating that it is not a kind of a technological advancement, but rather Foucault has shown that somehow there is a kind of a design to show, to some extent, to establish that your works are to some extent soothing than mine. So just go there, just go within the within the cage, the four walls, and rule there. So don't try to come outside. Don't try to compete with us, because this is a toilsome work. So this will be done by the males, quote unquote males. And the males have the power, the males have the authority, the males have the bodily power. So this has been done, this has to be done by us, not you. So that's why this is the term, be embroiderer. Why are you coming outside? Why are you doing something extra? Be embroiderer, be cook, be a quarreler with servant. But the main theme is, quote unquote, fit in. So that means whenever the term like fit in is here, you will find that means obviously I am creating a construct. I'm creating a design. I'm creating a kind of a structure. You have to just fit in, right? That means you are the passive character, right? And you have to fit in. একদম ঠিকঠাক ভাবে মাপে মাপে তুমি বসে যাও জাস্ট। আমি তোমার সামনে যে স্ট্র্যাটিফিকেশনস গুলো করেছি, আমি তোমার সামনে যে একটা মাপকাঠি তৈরি করে দিয়েছি, এটা করবে না, এগুলি তোমার কাজ, জাস্ট ফিট ইন। Okay, and everything will be belong to us, or it will be done by us. So that's why she says that they say that dress in saris, be girl, be white, be embroiderer, be cook, be a quarreler with servants, just fit in. Oh, belong, cried the categorizers. So ultimately here it is indicating they are the categorizers, they are creating the categories, right? And then she says that they actually consider that the belong. This belong means ultimately you have to be associated with the kind of belongings that I do provide you. You should belong to them to feel comfortable and happy in a particular station of life or social class, or with a particular group of people. So what I am stating, what I am doing with you, just belong. So it's the cry of the categorizers. And then again, the obligatory rules and regulations are there. It says, don't sit on walls. What are you doing? You're sitting on walls. This is not a kind of a work to be done by a woman. It is the work only to be suited to a man. You are peeping in through the laced windows into the other's bedroom? No. A woman must not do this. A female must not do this. Why are you entering into others' life? Why are you trying to peep into anything? Why are you becoming voyeur? Okay? Because the voyeurism, the kind of voyeuristic orientation, it must to be associated with the males alone. Why are you doing this? Be Annie, or be Kamala, or better still, be Madhavi Kutti. These are the names. Annie, Kamala, Madhavi Kutti, these are the names, titles, assumed names, that actually Kamala Das used. Say, for example, Madhavi Kutti, she assumed this particular name while writing short stories. So be Annie, be Kamala, or better still be Madhavi Kutti. It is time to choose a name, a role, okay? You have to function well, you have to choose a role. Don't be meddled into everything, Don't play pretending games. Why are you pretending that you are a different person? You should be like a person, what we want from you to be. So don't play pretending games. Don't play as schizophrenia. So why are you assuming different kinds of roles and different kinds of identities? When assuming dual role or existence, when preserving that particular within you, this is a kind of a disease that they consider. It is called the schizophrenia. And then she says that don't play at schizophrenia. Because schizophrenia, why it's been stated, you see, that somehow, in the process of role playing, there are kind of a thing that why are you not thinking that you are somebody's wife alone? Why are you thinking that you have your own identity? Why are you thinking that you are a writer? Don't do that. Possessing these kinds of separate orientations, separate existence, it creates some problem in you. So you are a diseased person to some extent, you will be. So that's why don't consider them. Don't play at schizophrenia. Or be a nympho. Nympho, this particular term is coming from nymphomaniac. Why it is being stated nymphomaniac? Because if you consider that when to gratify one's desire, to gratify one's sexual desire, to be specific, when somebody wants to keep relationships with others, then this particular lady is being considered as nymphomaniac. So this is a kind of a term, a derogatory term, not in a positive sense it is being used. So it says that don't try to gratify your sexual hunger. Okay, they consider. It is not sexual desire. It is not the sexuality that you are longing to find. Rather, you will be termed as sexual hunger, lust, LUST. These are the terms that have been stratified by the males, because this is something that have to be that must have been present in the males alone. Not it is the matter with the females. When a female will be doing this, then it will be marked as A, capital A. Okay, just read one particular novel by Nathaniel Hawthorne, and it is the Scarlet Letter. Then you will find what is actually happening there. Adultery. Okay, and this particular mark had been dumped on a character named Hester Prynne. So that's why it says that don't play at schizophrenia or be a nympho. Don't be a nympho. Don't cry embarrassingly loud when jilted in love. So why? A woman should be silent. Why are you crying loud when jilted or rejected in love? Okay, there is no particular need of crying, because you are not being permitted to cry loudly, because whenever you are crying, it actually smashes others', the family's reputation. So why are you crying loudly? You are not being permitted to cry loudly. Don't cry embarrassingly loud when jilted in love. And then the ... So these are the don'ts. The series of don'ts are actually there. The obligatory rules and principles that have been dumped on me by patriarchy. Then the poet actually says, I met a man, loved him, truly. Call him not by any name. He is every man. So now it is the generalization that she is making. She says, I met a man, I loved him. Okay, there is a kind of a feeling that I do have for her, for him. And I call him not by any name. So he was not just any person to me. But temperamentally, you will find that he is every man who wants a woman. So this is the temperamental difference between a man and a woman. A man wants, a woman, but a woman wants love. That is the difference that she is creating. He is every man who wants a woman, just as I am every woman who seeks love. So if you think in terms of the male prerogatives, then you will find the male or a man wants a female body, and a female wants emotional attachment or love. So that is the thing that she is actually differentiating. Again, the same being oriented regarding the temperament between a man and a woman. She says, in him, the hungry haste of rivers. Okay, hungry haste of rivers, hunger, it is indicating in terms of the physical appetite, obviously. The physical lust, or maybe the hunger, the sexual gratifications, all this being incorporated. And there is a haste. The haste of rivers. Okay, the same emotional attachment, the same kind of expression will be applicable to the short story that is in your syllabus, that is, that is intrusion. So in him, the hungry haste of rivers, in me, the ocean's tireless waiting. So the differences, you see, one is river, its movement, and it is fast movement, it's hungry haste, and another is the ocean, it is waiting tirelessly. Okay, so the difference you can identify. One is being related with the body, and the second one is related with the soul. One is related with the haste, another is related to the waiting. One is associated with hunger, the other is associated with, the kind of a metaphysical, kind of spiritual, kind of a mental attachment. And then she continues, who are you? I ask each and every one. She, throughout her life, it is a real thing, that she was in search of the person with whom she could be mentally attached. Okay, it was not that her husband was, in a distant relationship. It's not that. But in spite of that, you will find certainly that she was in search of the true love to some extent. Who are you? I ask each and every one. The answer is, it is I. I means ego. I means aham. That means nobody is actually thinking anything else than I. সেটাই বলছে আর কি, মানে নিজেকে ছাড়া যারা অন্য কিছু বোঝেন। তো সেখানেই বলছে যে who are you? I ask each and every one. Each and every male actually. And the answer is, it is I. Anywhere and everywhere I see the one who calls himself I. সব জায়গাতে যেখানে যাচ্ছি আমি সেখানেই যতজনের সঙ্গে সামনাসামনি হয়েছি, যখনই আমি তাদের ভেতরটাকে সম্পর্কে জানতে চলেছি বা I tried to feel about his essences, his feeling, his orientations, I found that this is a kind of an egoistic fool. That means everywhere he is thinking about himself. সবকিছুর মধ্যে নিজের চাওয়া পাওয়া ছাড়া কিছু সে ভাবে না। In this world, actually, he is tightly packed like the sword in its sheath. একটা তরবারি যখন তার খাপের মধ্যে থাকে, ঠিক যেরকম টাইটলি প্যাক থাকে, এর এই আইগুলো মানে সেলফ সেন্টার্ড ওরিয়েন্টেশন বলছে আর কি, সেইগুলোর জন্য তাকে পুরো আষ্টে পৃষ্ঠে রেখেছে, আটকে রেখেছে, কভার্ড। So in this world, he is tightly packed like the sword in its sheath. But it was I actually who actually suffered. She says, it is I who drinks at 12 midnight in hotels of strange towns. It is I who laugh. It is I who make love and then feel shame. It is I who lie dying. মানে দুজন কিন্তু ছিলাম না কোনোদিনই। যখনই এই ঘটনাগুলো ঘটেছে একটার পর একটা, she tried to to search the person who would gratify her mental thirst. তো সেইটাই ক্ষেত্রে বলছে সব জায়গাতে আমি একাই ছিলাম, কোনো জায়গায় দ্বিতীয় জন ছিল না। It is I who drinks at 12 midnight in hotels of strange rooms or strange towns. It is I who love. It is I who make love and then feel shame. It is I who lie dying each and every moment, you see, each and every day. It was living and partly living, death in life existence. It is I who lie dying with a rattle in my throat. Rattle is kind of a sound that is produced before death actually. And then she says, I am sinner, I am saint. So in me both are present actually. If I consider myself as a sinner because I am doing the sins of breaking all the boundaries, sins of what I must not do, so I am the sinner from that particular perspective. And if I do think in terms of myself, then I have to state that I am the saint too. So at one point I am the sinner, at another point I am the saint. I am the beloved and the betrayed. So the antithetical orientations are there. If you consider it as sin, then I am the sinner. And if you consider that yes, I am the saint because I am doing something good, okay, because I am in search of the spiritual and philosophical attachment, I am the person who is the beloved, I am the person who is betrayed. I have no joys which are not yours, no acts which are not yours. So ultimately I always try to be associated with you, okay. Whenever there is the matter with the joys, I found that you are or you were in joys. In my joy, you actually being present. And in my X means the pains and sufferings, you were truly being present there too. But now I too call myself I. That means this is the present scenario. I have to say that I am no longer to be related with you alone. Rather, I must consider, I must think in terms of my own desires, in terms of my own feelings, in terms of my own thought itself. And that's why it is the time for me to think of myself. I too call myself I because this is my orientation, my world, my existence, my thought process, my understanding, my acknowledgement, everything. So that is the thing that now at the present, I too call myself I. And with this particular I, as it is a kind of a confessional poem, as I've already mentioned, so therefore you will find to some extent by establishing her own identity, the kind of crisis that have been, created by the patriarchal designs, she is actually negating all these, and now she is stating that it is the time for me to loud, in the words of T.S. Eliot, wipe your hands across your mouth and laugh. That is the time to do this. That is the time to think about yourself. That is the time to, break free your emotions and break free your understanding and feelings. Break free your thoughts and say, yes, it is me. It is my existence. It is my thought. It is my language. And I will keep these things like this. Okay, so this is the actual fundamental focus of this particular poem, an introduction. So any question?
স্যার এক জায়গায় দেখলাম যে এই অ্যান ইন্ট্রোডাকশন কে অটোবায়োগ্রাফিক্যাল পোয়েমও বলছে, এটা কি সত্যি?
হ্যাঁ, কনফেশনাল মানে অটোবায়োগ্রাফিক্যাল ওরিয়েন্টেশন আছে।
স্যার
বলো।
স্যার আমার কলেজের না ক্লাস শুরু হয়ে গেছে, আমি কি লিভ করব?
করে যাও। কোন কলেজ তোমার? আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে, বলো তারপর।
স্যার আমাদের কলেজে 8টা থেকে শুরু হয়েছে, এখন 8টা 23-এ গিয়ে কি পড়বে ওই জানে, ক্লাস তো আর 20 মিনিট 15 মিনিট পরে বন্ধ হয়ে যাবে।
ঠিক আছে, আমার তো হয়ে গেছে।
স্যার এখানে আয়ের কনসেপ্টটা কি বললো? আয় বোঝাতে এটা কি হচ্ছে?
লাস্টে হচ্ছে মানে কি বলতো, তুমি ওই যে বললাম না যে তুমি আলটিমেটলি ইউ শুড নট follow the rules and regulations and obligations that have been dumped on you by patriarchy. Rather তোমাকে এখন তোমার মতো করে ভাবনা চিন্তা করতে হবে, তোমার মতো করে দেখতে হবে, তুমি কি ভাবছো সেটা ইম্পর্টেন্ট এখানে। দ্যাটস ওয়াই আইটা এখানে ইম্পর্টেন্ট হয়ে দাঁড়াচ্ছে। এবং এখানে বলছে যে আমি নিজের সত্তাটাকে বিসর্জন না দিয়ে আমি এবার নিজের ফিলিংটাকে নিয়ে থাকবো। দ্যাটস ওয়াই আই। বুঝতে পারছো মিষ্টু?
হ্যাঁ স্যার।
ওকে, কবিতাটা খুব বলিষ্ঠ কবিতা, বুঝতে পারছো তো? খুব পাওয়ারফুল পোয়েম কিন্তু।
স্যার বলছি, যখন বলতো না ডোন্ট প্লে প্রিটেন্ডিং গেমস, এটা আবার বলতেন ডোন্ট প্লে প্রিটেন্ডিং গেমস।
মানে সেখান থেকে পুরোটা বলতে হবে?
না না, শুধু জাস্ট ওই লাইনটুকু, ডোন্ট প্লে প্রিটেন্ডিং গেমস, এটা জাস্ট বুঝলাম।
পেট্রিয়ার্কি বলছে তুমি প্রিটেন্ড করছো যে ইউ ডু হ্যাভ ডিফারেন্ট আইডেন্টিটিস, ডিফারেন্ট নেম। আমরা যেগুলো স্ট্র্যাটিফাই করে দিচ্ছি তোমাকে, তুমি সেগুলোকে না মেনে তুমি নানা রকম সেলফ তোমার নিজের মধ্যে তৈরি করতে চাইছো। যেন প্রিটেন্ড করছো তোমার অনেকগুলো সত্তা আছে, মানে তুমি একজন কবি, তুমি একজন স্বাধীন মেয়ে, সেটাই বলছে। ডোন্ট ট্রাই টু প্রিটেন্ড এনিথিং মোর। যেটা আমরা ডাম্প করছি সেটা নিয়ে থাকবো।
ওকে স্যার, থ্যাংক ইউ।
আচ্ছা, তোমরা যারা আছো একটু আমাকে ওই নামগুলো একটু লিখে দিও না ওখানে চ্যাট বক্সে, তোমাদের নামগুলো থাকলো না, শুধু বুঝা দিচ্ছি, তাই তো? হ্যাঁ সৌপর্ণ, বলো, কিছু বলছিলে?
ওখানে একটা জায়গায় বলেছে না যে এভরি ম্যান ওয়ান্টস টু অনলি এ উম্যান, বাট এ উম্যান ওয়ান্টস টু অনলি এ লাভ। লাভ বলতে কাকে বুঝিয়েছে?
লাভ বলতে লাভকেই বুঝিয়েছে, ইমোশনস, ইমোশনাল অ্যাটাচমেন্ট।
ওখানে ওই মেটাফিজিক স্পিরিচুয়াল বলে ওটা বলুন।
স্পিরিচুয়াল হোক, সাইকোলজিক্যাল হোক, মেন্টাল হোক, এনিথিং, বাট লাভ বলতে লাভই, কোনো বডি নয়, ইমোশন।
স্যার আপনি লাস্টে একটা উপন্যাস পড়তে বললেন, নামটা আরেকবার একটু বলে দেবেন?
উপন্যাসটার নাম হচ্ছে তোমার স্কারলেট লেটার। স্কারলেট লেটার বাই ন্যাথানিয়েল হথর্ন, আমেরিকান রাইটার। ন্যাথানিয়েল হথর্ন, হথর্নের স্কারলেট লেটার খুব ভালো। অ্যাডাল্টারি নিয়ে, কিন্তু সাইকোলজিক্যাল, মানে ফেমিনিস্ট অ্যানালিসিস হয় টেক্সটটা। তোমাদের যে দুটো পড়তে দিয়েছিলাম, পড়েছো কেউ ওই দুটো বই?
স্যার শুরু করব করে আর করা হয়নি, আজ করব, আজ ক্লাস কম।
আচ্ছা, ওয়ান সেটিং না ভাই, একবারে হয়ে যাবে বসলে। ঠিক আছে, আর কি? হ্যাঁ, লানি বেঙ্গলিটা হাফ শেষ হয়েছে, অনিশের। ওকে, এরপরে এখনই আমি জিজ্ঞেস করবো না কেমন লাগছে, এরপরে নহন্যতে যখন পড়বে তখন জিজ্ঞেস করবো পরে। ঠিক আছে, আজকে আর টানছি না, বুঝতে পেরেছো?
স্যার আমি গুগলে ওই পার্মানেন্ট আর মিউটেবিলিটি জিনিসটা সার্চ করলাম, তো ওখানে মিউটেবল বলে একটা পোয়েম আছে, ওটার বিষয়ে বলছে স্যার।
না না, সেটা না, ভালো করে খোঁজো। পার্মানেন্স এন্ড মিউটেবিলিটি, পার্মানেন্স কিন্তু সি, ঠিক আছে? ঠিক আছে, কালকে তাহলে আমাদের ডক্টর ফাস্টাস, হ্যাঁ কালকে তোমাদের শিডিউলটা মোরাললেস ধরো ওই কটাতে, 9টা থেকে তো ছিল নাকি? কটা ছিল ওটা? 9টা
9টা থেকে ছিল স্যার।
9টা থেকে থাকবে।
ওকে স্যার,
ঠিক আছে, টাটা।
থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার।
ওকে, ওয়েলকাম।